Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Genealogy with Desi Campbell. Today we will share with the Wells family descendants. All of our participants found each other via Ancestry DNA and have been able to put some of the pieces of their family back together again. They are descendants of Jack Pearsall and Eady Kenan, who were born in the late 1700s in the new Hanover County, now Pender County area of North Carolina. Jack and Eady had about 10 children who went in the name of Wells. Most of the participants are descendants of Alfred Wells, who was born around 1815. He had about 15 children between 4 wives.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am excited to be here today. I am Desi Campbell, and I have the Wells family descendants here with me sharing today, and these are my DNA cousins. So sit back and relax and enjoy as we tell the Wells story.
I'm Roland Wells. from Baltimore. My father was born in Teachey, North Carolina, and his father's name was James Wells. James Henry Wells, and that's as far back as I can go, unfortunately. I do know, Desi, you helped me a little bit, but I don't know who my great-grandfather was.
All right.
So that's it.
All right. Deborah?
Hi, I'm Deborah Jackson. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, and I found out in 2017 that I was DNA relative to the Wells. So I am Gail, Linda, Pam, Deborah. I'm their little sister.
Okay.
Chester is my dad.
All right. Sheila?
I'm Sheila Williams. I'm in Orlando, Florida. And my mother, Etha Williams' father name was Chester Wells.
All right. Helen?
Oh, hi. Okay. Well, I'm Helen Pearsall Barksdale. My grandmother was Alfred Williams, and her mother was Huldah Katherine Wells, and her father was Alfred Wells, and I think it was going all the way back to, I forget the other Wells, let me see, Huldah Katherine. I have it up here just a second, and I'm going to tell you.
Here it is.
Huldah Katherine Wells was my great-grandmother. Yeah, right. And her father was Alfred. And, well, I have it up here. I'm trying to look it up. James, well, there's some James Wells on here, and maybe that was the great-great-grandfather. But then the Chafee, well, that's good enough. But at any rate, Huldah Katherine, I think that's where we make that connection.
All right.
Connection with you guys.
James?
Okay, my name is James Williams, and I am in Dumfries, Virginia, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. It must have been about 3 years ago. I met Desi from Ancestry.com. From Desi to Helen, I'm sorry. I'm connected by my grandmother, and her name is Daisy Wilson from Turkey, North Carolina. And I don't remember a lot, but I think her sister was Hildy. And so it goes back from there. So I'm not exactly certain how it all connects. I've seen it, but I don't know how to explain it.
All right. Doshaleen?
I am Doshaleen Wells. I am originally from Dunn, North Carolina, but I currently reside in Lithonia, Georgia, about 15 minutes outside of Atlanta with good traffic. I am the daughter of Clinton Wells Sr., who is the grandson of Aggie Wells. And so Aggie Wells is also, so he's the grandson. My grandmother's name was Dosha Wells, who is Desi's grandmother's sister.
Yes.
So that's how we're connected. So I'm actually named after my grandmother. So that's how we're all connected. But I live currently in Lithonia, Georgia, but I visit Dunn often.
All right. Shawnee?
Hi, I'm Shawnee Harvey Robinson. I currently live in Garner, North Carolina, originally from Dudley. My dad is Franklin Harvey, who is the son of Annie Ruth Harvey Williams, who is the daughter of Annie Ruth Williams, who is the daughter of Huldah Catherine Wells.
All right.
Yeah.
Jack?
I'm just sitting there for Pam. I'm just sitting there for Pam, Deborah, Linda, and Celeste. So I'm the brother-in-law. I've been married to your cousin Pam for 42 years. So I'm always interested in history. So I'm just trying to find out what I can find out about the Wells family.
All right. All right, Ellen.
Hi, my name is Ellen Thaxton. I live in Gainesville, Virginia, and Rollin is my brother. So he told who our father, Warner Tyrone Wells, and his father was James. I'll leave it to Rollin.
James Henry Wells.
Okay, and that was his father, John something Wells.
That's right. His father was John Wells. That's correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So.
Thank you,
All right. I see Gail has finally come on.
Hi, my name is Galen Wells. I am a descendant of Alfred Wells.
We all are.
Okay. So what else? What else? Oh my. Okay. You got jokes. But where should I see you? Okay. Where should I
Chester
see
Wells.
You come from
Chester
Chester
Wells. Chester Wells Senior and Junior.
All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start from what I know and what I found, and with me and Helen and a few other people that really have tried to put this mixed up family back together, because it's really mixed up. So where we start with Jack Pearsall and Eady Kenan. Jack Pearsall was born probably in the latter 1700s, and Eady Kenan was born in 1798. Somewhere around in there. We just guesstimate those. In the 1808 will of Jacob Wells, we find Jack. In the 1813 will of James Pearsall, we find Jack and Eady. Jack and Eady had quite a few kids. One of their daughters was named Chloe, which we don't have no DNA matches from that line. We go over to Alfred, which I'll come back to that line. Go over to Eli. And Eli Wells, I believe this is the line that Ellen and Rollin come through. Simeon, I think their great-grandfather was great-great-grandfather was Simeon Wells. That Tyrone, he comes through that person, I do believe. So that's, y'all came from Eli Wells and Tina Newton. All right. Then there's Jerry Wells and Hester Carr. James Leaks Wells, we have 2 or 3 DNA matches that come through that line. That's how I was able to put that back together. Then, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, Ellen, y'all come through this man right here, Simeon Simon, hold on. Oh, let me make it bigger. Simon Roscoe Wells, that's who y'all come through, Ellen.
Simon Roscoe Wells, you said?
Yes, Simon Roscoe Wells.
And that was, what year was that, 17, 18?
He was born in 1885.
Okay.
Then you have Roger Wells. I think I have a couple of, maybe one DNA match that come through that line. Then you have Samuel Wells. They lived in Teachie. This group lived in Teachie. No, I'm wrong. That group lived in Green Evers, if y'all know anything about Green Evers, which is in Duplin County. Then there was Stokes Wells. And I keep going. There was Benjamin Wells, Benjamin Wells died about 1870. I found his death. He was on the death record 1870. And then there's Obed Wells, which this group lived in teaching. And this group is mixed up because they're not only they're kin to me twice because they come through the Holmes line. As you see, I found a brother to Eady. His name was Lot Kenan. And I found 2 DNA matches that come through Lot Kenan, but we're not talking about the Kenans today. We're just talking about the Wells. But I wanted to point that out. All right, so we're gonna go back over here to Alfred, which is where most of us come through. Alfred was an interesting character. Alfred, it looked like Alfred may have had at least 3 or 4 wives.
Wow.
Only one person he did not marry that I know of that he had a child by. So I'm gonna scroll down now, keep going. Okay, so Alfred had Wright Wells. All right, so Lucy and Andrew, Sheila and James, y'all remember we went to the graveyard that was right on the side of the road?
Yeah, I did.
When we were in, yeah. So that's where all these people are buried at, in that graveyard right beside that road.
Oh, okay.
So this would be our great uncle. Doshaline, this would be Papa Adge's uncle. Okay, that would be his uncle, and so would Wright. And Wright went to, a lot of these people went to Georgia. So Wright was in prison in Georgia. I'm not sure what he did in Georgia, but he went to prison in Georgia. Then we have Huldah Katherine, which is quite a few DNA matches to Huldah Katherine. She married Alfred T. Williams Sr. And as you see, they had quite a bit of kids. Everybody can see this, right? The screen.
That's the 14 kids, right?
Yes, 14 children. That's a lot of kids.
That's
so
a lot.
Helen and Shawnee, and that's it. Helen and Shawnee, they come through this line right here. And we have about 5 or 6 DNA matches through this line. We actually know about 10, maybe about 10 or 12 DNA matches through this line. And that's a lot of people. Then there was Nellie Wells. We can't find anything on her, which her name may not have been Nellie, may have been something else. Then we go over to James Anthony Wells, which is my line, which I come through James Anthony Wells. So James Anthony Wells is Papa Adge's daddy, and he met Helen Holmes. A few weeks ago, I did a story on the Holmes line. And so James Anthony Wells had quite a few kids as well. He died in Hinesville, Georgia. I'm not sure, well, I do know they probably went to Hinesville, or went to Georgia rather, for the turpentine industry. So we have a lot of DNA matches to Georgia that match to this Wells line. Some of them I can't figure out. But James Anthony Wells and Ellen Holmes had Obed Adge Wells. And I remember when my great-granddaddy was about to die, he was probably a few weeks from dying. We asked him, okay, somebody else is coming in. We asked him about his family and where they were from, and he told us they were from across the river. So we had no idea what was across the river. So we figured out, that he was talking about Maple Hill. And so I asked him, well, why we can't find him on the census. And then I asked him, I said, well, who is Obed? We know who all the other siblings are. He said, well, that's me. We didn't know his name was Obed. But his name was Obed Adge Wells. We had no idea that was his name. And so we found that out right before he passed away. All right, and we're going on down to, keep going. Okay, so Cornelia Ann Wells, she married Allen Williams, who is the brother to Alfred Williams. So all of these, Cornelia and Alfred's children are double cousins. 2 brothers that married 2 sisters. And a lot of them still live on that line, live in Burgaw. Ones are still living, most of them have passed away. Which she had a lot of kids. And my grandmother's actually named after her. I didn't know that. My grandmother's name was Dorothy Cornelia Wells. And then you have the Sherman Wells, which I've been trying to find him for years. And he also went to Georgia. He was in Lawrence County, Georgia, which is Dublin, Georgia. And they went down there because of the turpentine industry. So I was able to get a DNA connection through Etta Wells and Harrison O'Neill. So I got some of my friends that I went to college with trying to reach out to some of those. Matter of fact, one of my friends' mother married into this family. So she's going to try to reach out to them and because they won't respond on Canada. And then you have Henry Wells, who married Martha, and I think he ended up in Georgia as well. Then you have John Wells, which is where Sheila and Jack and Deborah and Gail and all that crowd come through. They come through John Wells, who also went to Georgia. Went to Georgia sometime between 1890 and 1900. And that's Chester Wells. That is their granddaddy. So John Wells had Chester Wells. However, I think John Wells may have got married again because I found a DNA match that has a John Wells that lived in Sampson County who was the same age as this John Wells and got married again. So we're not sure what happened with them, but we're still working on that. I added this Ben Hall as one of Alfred's children because these people right here, Maggie, Lonnie, Dudley, and Arthur, were all living in a house with my great-grandfather in 1900 and 1910, and it says those were James Anthony Wells' siblings. No, I'm sorry, James Anthony Wells' nieces and nephews. So the only way they can be his nieces and nephews is that their parents gotta be a sibling. So we think Ben Hall was a sibling to, would have been Alfred's son, because the Hall family is very, very much connected to the Wells. We have tons of Hall DNA that somehow are connected to the Wells. I just haven't figured out how. Sarah Wells is where James come through. No.
Yeah.
Yes, James.
Yes, it is.
James come through Sarah Wells. We don't know who Sarah's mother is, but we know that James come through Sarah. Sarah married Peter Smith.
My sister Diane had just popped in.
Oh, hello, Diane.
Hey there, how you guys doing?
Great. All right, so Sarah married a Peter Smith and had tons of kids. I was able to connect with them on DNA as well. And they, a while back, and I actually went to one of their reunions. As you see, there's a lot of them. They mostly lived in Turkey. North Carolina, and most of them went to Wilson Chapel Church in Turkey, North Carolina. All right, so that is pretty much the Wells line. Well, no, I'm sorry, I got one more. This is the interesting person, this one right here, Lestina Stokes. On her death certificate, I found a DNA match that come from her line. She married an Everett Murphy. On her death certificate, it says that Alfred Wells is her daddy, and Margaret Stokes is her mama. Well, Margaret Stokes is my great-great-grandmother on a completely different side of my family. The story is, one of my cousins that lived in California, she passed away, she told me that one of the Stokes and one of the Wells had a child together. And so when I told my grandma, y'all been able to tell my grandma I told this story, but when I told my grandma about what she told me, my grandma said, that ain't true. She don't know what she's talking about. Well, she's telling the truth. So Alfred, in between his wives, had a child by a Murphy lady. I mean, by a Margaret Stokes, which was my great-great-grandma. And there came Lestina Stokes, who married, and she had quite a few kids, and we were able to connect with that line, and they lived in Magnolia. Those are outside kids. It's 3 outside kids that I know of. I know there's more. We just don't know. I know there's 2 more, but I didn't put them on my tree. Alfred again, let me find them. Alfred was married to Clarissa. Clarissa was a Jacobs. He married her in the 50s, the late 50s. Okay. He had already had Sarah and Lestina and Ben, and I think there are others. Clarissa is supposed to be, well, she is Native American. Her father is a man named William Carvell Jacobs, who was from Robeson County, North Carolina. So that's where that Native American comes from in the Wells line. So Alfred, after he all of his wives, I assume, died, or I was told that Clarissa left him. I'm not sure how true that is. But Rebecca, he married Rebecca. Her name was Rebecca James. She's also my cousin because of the Holmes line. Okay, she was a Rebecca James that married a Pickett. I guess he died. She was very young. He married her and had 4 more kids. And he was 85 years old. I wasn't sure if those were his kids until I got a DNA match to them. So I'm assuming he had 4 kids at the age of 85. I don't think that was possible.
I thought it was something else.
So what I want to do is go back over to Helen's line, to Alfred Wells, and I just want Helen just to talk a little bit about Alfred Williams and Huldah Catherine Wells.
All right. Well, most of this stuff I'm just learning in the last so many years as I ran into Desi and Shawnee and the rest of them, and James and all those. I started to get the matches, and I started looking back, and I found that, as Desi said, Huldah Catherine, my great-grandmother, and her sister Cornelia married 2 brothers, and they all were here in the Pender County, Pender County area, which is offspring Wilbert Williams. I don't know if any of you know him, but at any rate, my great-grandmother, Huldah Catherine, died of childbirth with the last child, James Williams. So James was raised by his sister because his mom had passed, and his dad, Alfred, went and married. He married someone else. And then he had more kids. And I guess that's where the Rebecca James comes in. He had kids with her. And Alfredi, named after Alfred, is my great grandfather, who's married to Huldah Catherine Wells. So Alfred Williams, son-in-law to Alfred Wells. Huldah Catherine died in 1905, and James was born in 1905. Right? I guess she died right after or during the birth of James. But I didn't know any of these people. They live in Maple Hill. If any of you know Maple Hill, it's only about 8 to 15 miles from Burgaw. And all this area, the Pender County, Burgaw area, is where they all lived in those days. And I'm pretty much I'm just learning now about these relatives. I know my grandmother Alfredi, we didn't grow up with her because she left my grandfather early, and at a young age, and so my mom never knew her mom's side, so I didn't know that Wells Williams side of the family until now when I'm just meeting you guys, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't got the DNA to prove it. So that's pretty much what I know. When you look if you're looking on your for your tree, you'll find that Alfreda on the census reports it says Alfred. They had her down as a boy because I guess she was young, and they just said Alfred, and the census taker put her down as Alfred, but Alfreda was her name. And then her mother was Huldah Catherine, and Huldah Catherine's father was Alfred, and his wife was Clarissa Jacobs. And then and I can go back to the Chavis. So it takes us back to Jack Pearsall and Eady Kenan. And it's mixed up, and I find it's very convoluted. It's hard to figure out because Desi's grandmother is related to me in so many different ways, as well as some of the rest of you. Some of you are Dixons with me, some of you are Pearsalls with me, some of you are we're just all mixed up. So it's just nice to be able to share this information, though, and hopefully we'll be able to pick some more of it apart. And with thanks to with the help of Desi, it's been great.
All right. So Sheila, I want to let you talk a little bit about Chester Wells and your connection to Chester or to the Wells.
Okay, my grandfather, which was Chester Wells Sr., was born there in Statesboro. His father was John Wells, and he had, I don't know if they were married or whatever, but I do know that my grandmother's name was Liddy Jane. And according to the census in 1901, Liddy Jane had moved to Statesboro and married a Springfield. And my grandfather was born in February of 1902. So from what I understand that from my grandfather is that he had died. And it wasn't until several years ago when I met Desi, wanting to know how we connected, and he was able to connect the dots and so forth. So that I think that we was related. Well, I know that we were related, a descendant of Alfred. But yeah, so I don't know too much about John. All I know is that he had died. That's what my grandfather said. And so
I think he got remarried.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to James. I know you can't talk a lot about your father back, but you can talk about your father or your mother, whichever side it is that connects to the Wells, as it relates to Turkey.
All right. I'd like to defer to my sister Diane because she knows more on that. Was it John Wells, Diane?
I think I tracked it. Let me
unmute yourself.
Okay. I was looking at the family tree from before, and I'm still working on where we fit in. I think it's from our grandmother's side, the Wilsons, that have branched off into this part of the family.
It is the Wilsons, you're correct. You come from, I'm gonna get it to
Daisy.
Hold on, I'm gonna tell you who you come from.
Sam and Lizzie Wilson.
Yes, Sam and Lizzie Wilson.
Sam and Lizzie.
Okay, yeah.
So, and the other thing about Sam, I think that you all connected to me twice because Sam's mother or grandmother was a Hollingsworth, which is another line in my DNA as well. They were in that same area. So Lizzie Wilson, let me see, let me find it. All right, Lizzie was a Smith.
Right.
Lizzie was a Smith, and Lizzie's mama was Sarah Wells. So that's the child that we don't know who the mother is.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sarah Wells, and who married Peter Smith. And that's the group that came out of Wilson Chapel. All right, so I'm using my grandmother as an example for the through lines. So the through lines have really been able to help pull some of this stuff together. So all together, my grandmother has 32 DNA matches through Jack Pearsall. So we go to Benjamin Wells, we have two DNA matches. I know who Preston Wells is, this person right here is. I met them last year actually in Charlotte. They had a Wells family reunion for this line right here, and I went and I met them, and it was wonderful. And they had no idea of the amount of family members they had through the Wells. And I'm not sure who this young lady right here is, but I know who the McCann family is. All right, so that's Benjamin Wells. Then we have Jerry Wells, we have 3 DNA matches through that line. Then my grandmother matches. Now Simon Roscoe is who y'all come through Ellen, but you just don't match with my grandmother. I'm not sure who these people are. I've sent them messages, but I haven't heard anything from them. All right, so the biggest line is Alfred Wells, which has 27 DNA matches, which is a lot. Sarah, which is, you see James there. And there's L'Oreal. I tried to get her to come on, but she wouldn't come. She didn't want to come on. But this is a very big family. This Sarah Wells line, very big family. And I'm gonna save Hulda Catherine for last because she got the most DNA matches. Then there's John Wells, which is where Sheila and them come through. And we have 2 through Chester, which is D. Park Jack. Who is that, Sheila?
Who?
Who is D. Park Jack?
That's
His
Deborah.
brother.
That's Deborah.
That's Deborah.
That's
Okay.
Gail's sister.
Sister. Okay. So that's that. Those 2 come through Chester, and then we have Ether, which is Robert Henderson, and Brianna and Sheila. We got 3.
No,
and then,
Brianna is me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. See, 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have Ronald Jones, which we met at the family reunion 2 years ago. Then we go down to Cornelia Wells. We do have 2 matches to her, which is Ellen Boone and Jekiah Parker. Now there are other matches that go through this tree as well, but they just don't have a tree. So if they don't have a tree, it won't show up. And then we have 5 matches through James Anthony Wells, which is who I come through. Oh, there's a new match. Oh, so my Uncle Promise, this is my great-grandfather's brother. He had a daughter named Ruth Callie Wells, so this is her daughter. And I think I reached out to her. So she would be my grandmother's second cousin. And then Obed Wells is my great-grandfather. And that's me, my sister, and my niece. Hulda Catherine. She got 13 DNA matches that come through her line. So we go with Annie Ruth, which is who Shawnee comes through. And you got the Little Red Wagon. I don't know who she is, but I know who she is. And then you got Ikea Dixon. And then you got Shawnee and Beverly. No, where's Shawnee at? Oh, Shawnee, she didn't match with my grandmother, but she matches with Shawnee. You took the test, right? You muted. Unmute yourself. Yeah, Shawnee took the test too. So everybody is not going to match with everybody. All right. So that's the good thing about a lot of people taking the test. The more people take the test, the merrier. So what happens is I may get something that you don't get, and you may get something I don't get, which helps connect the dots. So this is Shawnee's sister and her brother.
I did take the test. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she took the test. Her father also took the test. Shawnee's cousin. I think this is your first cousin right here, right?
Cheryl?
Yes.
The CSF?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Cheryl.
Okay. So those are DNA matches. And then we go over to where Helen's line is. We have Dorothy Nixon Barrett, who comes from Mary Dorothy Dixon. And then Helen, she got all the matches over here. So Helen got one, two.
That's all my sisters and brothers and
all her sisters and nieces and nephews.
Nieces, nephews, and cousins.
So these all took the test. So this pretty much helped us pull a lot of this family back together, really, which is really, really good for us and figure out, how we're connected to each other. And it's helped with the Kenan line as well.
I think one thing, this is Roland Wells. I was curious if you can track back to the slave, how we acquired our name of Wells. I know when I did my ancestry, I tracked back to Jacob Wells, which was a revolutionary person from 1770 something. And then he had a number of slaves that he gave to his children. And then I imagine that's when they started being, us, I guess. But I'm just curious if you can connect from Jacob. Is everybody a descendant of Jacob, or they relatives of Jacob?
I don't know. I know who Jacob is, and this is my theory. I think Jack Pearsall may have been a Wells before he became a Pearsall, but I'm not sure. When I look at the wheel is like, I can't remember what year the wheel is, but it's on down a little bit. It's not too far up in the, well, I take that back. It may be like 1815, 1820, and Jack is in the house with a Pearsall. Okay. But all of his children were Wells, so he could have been a Wells beforehand and became a Pearsall. Now, how I found out that Alfred's parents were Jack and Eady, when he got remarried in 1880 something, when he was 80 something. When he got remarried, on his marriage certificate, it said that his parents are Jack Pearsall and Eady Kenan. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another episode of Let's Talk Genealogy with Desi L. Campbell. Join us next week for another exciting episode. Please view our website at www.africanamericanexperience.org.